Welcome to Meadows Hobby Farm. Today I'm going to show you how I restored the septic system. This is what the property first looked like when we first stepped foot on it. It's pretty much grown over with thistles and weeds and destroyed. A lot of destruction had gone on previous to us buying it. It had sat vacant for several years. And then once I got into it, got the weeds pulled, we got into the septic and discovered what was wrong. The lids had decayed quite a bit. One lid was missing entirely. Roots had grown into the septic system through a little tiny hole. We cleaned those out. The destroyers of the property had come through and cut all the wiring and stripping all the metals so they can go out and salvage the metals and get money from it. This is the valve that was pretty much destroyed by corrosion. There was a break in the line inside the septic tank I had to fix. And this is the overall view inside of the septic system before I disassembled the products inside.
I took out of the septic. This is the float tree I took out of the septic. The lines were cut. So I'm replacing both switches. The pump switch is on the bottom, and the high water alarm switch will be at the top. Or be replacing both switches.
This is a sump pump. Once I pulled it out of the system, I checked it out. I had to wire in new wiring. And this is the wiring and float switches and the marine rope that I purchased to replace and restore the internal parts of the septic system with. The septic pump tested and it was alright. Here's the tools that I'm going to need to do the job of restoring the internal mechanisms of the septic tank. The septic tank also needs a high water alarm switch, which I purchased online. Now I'm rebuilding the tree and pre-measured on the pipe that goes into the system that holds the float valves in place. I dug my trench from the service box down to where the high water alarm switch is going to go, placed a conduit inside, and placed two separate wires through that lead. One wire will service the high water alarm, one wire will service the pump. This is the entry point of the wires going into the septic system to the float valves, or the float switches, and the septic pump. This is a sand filter system, not a gravity-fed system. That's why it's required electrical service to the septic system for a service pump. I now have the trench all buried. And my septic high water alarm switch conduited and installed. You'll notice the fancy post I affixed it to. I have the high water alarm switch 18 inches above grade level. And then I decided not to restore the valve at the time as I didn't need to.
Sump pump's in place. The wiring's fed up through that conduit, and it comes up through here. And here's the high water pump alarm. This is the switch float for the high water alarm. Connects right there. And this is the wiring for the motor, the wiring for the motor switch, and here's the 4 lines I talked about: a common ground, a common neutral, hot wire for the high water alarm, and hot wire for the the pump. So I got my wire nuts back at the house. I'll have to run back to the ranch and grab those and bring those down and get this all fastened up and close the box. And for the lid, this one's pretty decrepitated. Let me put this back on before somebody falls in. Alright. This one's set up to pour. I just got to get a rebar handle for it. What I did was, oh, we got water in there. That's alright, but I cut a board and beveled it and a sheet of plywood and set it down in there to fit tightly. Covered it with plastic. I'm going to I'll clear the critters out. Oh, a little snail. Mr. Snail and Mr. Worm, you guys don't need to be in there. Go make your worm casting somewhere. Go on. Off with you. And you, go play in the grass. There you go. Alright. Just get a bag of cement and my rebar handle and pour that in there, let it dry. Let it set about a week and then pull it out and remove the plastic and the plywood and then move them over to the other unit and use the same material to put in the other one and pour my cement over there. This is the sewer side. This is important about keeping it covered. But the septic had been pumped when I bought the farm. The septic's pumped clean. There's no sludge in the bottom. I don't know what the deal is, why it was pumped clean, but it's to my advantage. I don't have to worry about pumping a septic tank for a couple of years. Okay, I dug the hole and put the pole in, and it's now fixed to the pole, and it's set and ready to go. All the wiring is done. All that's left to do is get a double circuit, 15 amp each, to put in that circuit box, because each item here, the sump pump inside the well, the septic, and the high water alarm each have to have their own separate branch circuit, and so I have to get that branch circuit purchased and get that installed and then wire the wires in there. It should be okay, good to go, and hopefully it'll pass inspection. We'll see how it goes. At the meter box, the septic pump and the septic pump alarm are on two separate branch circuits. That way, if the septic pump should fail and blow the switch, the septic pump alarm will still activate. They must be on separate branch circuits.
My septic system is finished. I poured new cement lids and used U-bolts for the handles instead of rebar. And I also brought the dirt up to grade and buried the septic system under approximately 8 inches of soil. I was able to plant a garden over the septic system. That way it is a spot where nobody would park.